As far as methodologies for modeling and designing systems are concerned, there are two popular methods or methodologies, which one is known as a structured methodologies, and the other method is known as object-oriented development. So, structured method is a technique which shows step by step, and we do the development progressively. And this is quite an old method, available for many years, also known as SSADM, Structured System Analysis and Design Method. Yeah, SSADM, Structured System Analysis and Design Method, which is quite an old method, traditional or conventional method of developing the system step by step, progressively until we complete. Whereas object-oriented development is quite new. I won't say very new, but is also available past few years, which are very popular, being used by all the big IT vendors, and it is kind of the new ways of developing system compared to the old method, which is SSADM or structured methodologies. Both methodologies involve process, need to identify or focus on all the processes involved, but there are slightly different ways how we manage them. Yeah, and in structured methodologies, the data will be separate from processes. One of the tools that we need to develop under the structured methodologies is what we call context diagram and data flow diagram. Yeah, basically what this data flow diagram is all about is it is a primary tool, very important tool for representing systems component processes and flow of data between them. I will show you an example later. What you see is a very simple, very brief diagram. The actual diagram runs into many pages, and it can be one huge diagram, complicated diagram, which will be showing or representing all the components or all the processes involved in your business. It will show you all the data, the movement of the flows, data flows and information, what are the files or data stores, what are the databases involved, and so on. Who are the people, what are the reports can be generated, and so on. So it has actually a lot of details, which I'll show you shortly. It also offers logical graphic model of information flow, high level and lower level diagrams. Yeah, there are multi-layers or multiple layers of diagrams that need to be generated. For example, layer 1, layer 2, level 3, and so on. Data dictionary is also part of the requirement, which shows all the data stores, data flows, name of the data, the format of the data, the medium of the data, and so on. So all details about data within the system will be kept in a document known as a data dictionary. All process need to be specified under the process specification, and then there will be a structure chart. Like I told you earlier, there will be 8 to 9 different charts, more and less, need to be generated, which we call each one with a specific name, but generally we call structure chart, showing all details for different purpose of the development work. That's why it is known as a structured system analysis and design method. An example of the data flow diagram for a particular case study is as simple as this. where you have a student communicating with process 1, process 2 and process 3. There is a file data store, course file is involved, student master file also is shown here, and definitely there will be a database involved here. This is just one small portion of it, with one entity. In actual system, there will be many different entities, many different processes, many different layers of processors, many files and databases will be involved. An example of structure chart that we need to generate, for example, for a payroll system. Maybe most of you have seen this, you're quite familiar with this, where we break down the big system, the big problem into smaller problems, into more details by levels, different levels. We call this structure chart. Whereas the object-oriented development, like I told you, is quite a not very new, but quite a new approach in developing system, where instead of we uses entities, we use object as a basic unit of system analysis and design. What is object? Combine data and specific processes. That's what we call object. For example, you see student earlier. The student can be object. So the student has its own data, and also the student has or is capable or will be carrying out some specific processes. For example, the student is capable of doing inquiry, possible to register a new course, possible to make payment. So all these processes related to that particular object and data related to that particular object will be considered as one object. And this data will be encapsulated or kept in object, can be accessed and modified only by very specific operation or functions or methods associated with that object. So it is all based on object based. So that's the reason why we call it object oriented method or development compared to process based, just process based. Object oriented modeling based on concept of class and inheritance. So because most of the high level languages, high level programming languages today are supporting object oriented development, which will be class based or inheritance based, that's the reason why these methods are becoming popular. So I don't want to go into very technical, very detailed, but just for your information, you can run through some of this detail during your open discussion sessions later. So an example of class is there. Please take a look, and if you need any further clarification, please come back to me. So the phases are quite similar like what we discussed earlier. There will be analysis, design and implementation, no different from what we have discussed earlier. And during my earlier session, we have seen what is CASE or computer aided software engineering as one of the information system which is available for building IT system for a firm. And also we have many traditional systems with its own life cycle, like what we have discussed earlier. Start from investigation or feasibility study, moving on to system analysis and so on until the implementation. Other methods which are available for system development works are such as prototyping, which maybe some of you are familiar with. Also another option, another approach that we can go for in developing a system, but it again depends on the requirements, management decision, which method to go for. But the common ones are like what we have seen earlier, which are the structured method and the object oriented method. an example of class and inheritance. Is a bit too technical for you, so I just leave it to you. If you are interested, you can look into these slides later. Otherwise, just for your information. If you are looking into the advanced prototyping approaches, what you have in the next slide is some advantages and disadvantages of prototyping. So every method has its own advantages and drawbacks or disadvantages. So the team involved in this project need to make a decision which is the best approach to go for. Of course, there will be a lot of brainstorming and discussion sessions where we can use those sessions in making decision. As far as end user developments are considered, in today's world, we have many high level languages which are very powerful, fourth generation languages, the newer programming languages, which are very popular in making use to develop systems. They are very powerful, very rich with features and capabilities, and there are very high-end databases available for the same purpose. So and these high-level languages, as what we have covered earlier, also supports business intelligence and business analytic features or functionalities, as well as can be converted into expert system or decision support system, depends on your business requirement. And also there are some what we call custom software or ready-made or tailor-made application software packages available, but definitely there will be all kind of limitation when you go for this tailor-made or what we call custom-made application, because normally they will come out with a general system which will not be quite applicable to your business, not applicable to all industries, but they are built with common modules which requires many changes, again additional cost and time. So it is always a good idea to engage IT vendors and IT people to make sure to develop what exactly you need, what is your specific requirement, instead of going for a custom made or ready made or what we call off the shelf system. Yeah. So whatever it is, of course, all system development works or IT job will start with proposal, or we call it RFP, quite similar to any other industries or systems or areas where you need to come out with a RFP before we start with the work. The other option that we have, if we are not going for a in-house software development or system development, or if we are not going for purchasing off-the-shelf system or tailor-made or custom system, the other approach is to outsource. Yeah, outsource the entire system building approach to a third party. But definitely you need to go through a lot of meetings and brainstorming and discussion before which approach to go for. I'm very sure all of you have been involved or are involved in making such a decision. So another option that we have is definitely outsourcing. So where the IT vendors or the outsource vendors will be going through all the steps that we have discussed in this class. Just matter of who will be involved in developing the system will be different. And then there are some additional tasks where all the staff need to be trained, for example, by the vendors, will be different compared to if it is developed in-house. Also, what you have in the next slide is how to get outsourcing right. So this is an interactive session that you can always get your friends and team members involved and discuss during the open discussion session after the break next. Okay, so there are some questions here. you can always go through it and discuss together. The other method that we have in order to develop system beside what we have covered so far is what is known as a RAD, Rapid Application Development. It has its own ways and own steps and activities in developing the system. So please read through if you are interested as an additional or alternative method in developing system. The other method is known as a joint application design, JAD, another option in developing system. And all system requires component-based development, and more systems are being developed on the web base, as all of you are aware. There is a lot of advantages and reason why all the new systems are web-based. One of the main or critical requirement is so that the system can be accessed globally by anyone from anywhere and at any time. That is the good point of why more companies or more management are deciding to go for a web-based system compared to proprietary system. All right, so I believe with that I have covered all the slides for today's lectures, and with that, let's take a break, 15 minutes break, and I will be available as usual until